They're different. Welcome everyone to the ordinary meeting of Council for the 15th of March 2022. Firstly, I'll just do a councillor roll call for online to see that Councillor Mackenzie, who is via Teams, can see and hear us. I think you're on mute, Councillor Mackenzie.
We hope you are.
I don't know how that happened. Yes, Mayor, I can hear and see you.
Thanks, Councillor Mackenzie. Members of the public gallery should note that Council records and publishes Council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of Council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. All the appropriate times during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with the Council via the online web form should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please could gallery visitors, councillors and those invited online attendees ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. Can you stand? We'll do the acknowledgement of company, if we could all stand. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai Kurnai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Please sit down. I don't believe we have any apologies and any declarations of conflicts of interest. No. Do I have someone to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopts the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary Council meeting of the 1st of March 2022.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Happy with that, Councillor Wood?
Yes,
yep.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 4, business arising from previous meetings. I believe there is none. Item 5, acceptance of late or urgent items. I believe there is none. Item 6, notices of motion. There is none. Item 7, receiving of petitions or joint letters. What we'll do before we accept and move that petition as requested, I'll request we have some speakers in the gallery that would like to come forward. If you'd like to do that once at a time, and state your name and you have your 3 minutes as discussed.
Hi, my name's Kathy Lummis and I'm here to submit the petition that we've got collected for this evening on vaccines. So I'm here to submit the petition for the Wellington Shire Council, and basically we'd like you to adhere to your own values, policies and guidelines, to challenge you to act in accordance with the laws that you're bound to uphold and act with moral and ethical fibre for the people you're elected to represent. I have heard innumerable stories of mental and physical suffering in this community over the past 2 years, and if you're not hearing them, I would suggest that you need to stop judging and start listening. For those who say they are just following orders or that they're acting as Switzerland, that's not how communities work. Communities are a collection of individuals, and if we can't respect every single one of them, what kind of community are we? If your workplace is preventing you from acting in a moral or ethical manner, you need to step back and make some long overdue tough decisions. Now, I'm a healthcare worker and I have always advocated for my patients' rights. But last year, APRA effectively muzzled all healthcare workers across Australia. They're not permitted to discuss or debate anything that contradicts or questions the government's public health advice, even if it is evidence-based material. Their career will effectively be over and the registration is suspended. So the only way I can speak to you openly today and continue to advocate for my patients, my family and my community is because I cancelled my registration in protest. Effectively surrendering my career is the only way I can raise awareness of physical and mental harm or ask questions. Please let that sink in. For those of you who want to claim that benefits for the community outweigh the rights of individuals, have a think about what our ANZAC stood for, and then go and read the Victorian Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities, the Federal Constitution, and UNESCO's Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights, because the laws and ethical codes that this nation is signatory to could not be more clear. I'm also a defence veteran, and 4 generations of my family have served in the ADF. We did not serve so that the rights and freedoms of Australians could be traded for privileges as a reward for compliance. And I will not show my papers, digital or otherwise, in order to access medical or community facilities or businesses in this country. And might I add that I deeply resent having to show my papers to be able to speak in council chambers today. Now, in the Defence Force, it is the duty of every member to disobey unlawful commands. It's a chargeable offence to just follow orders. So I would remind the Council that they also serve the community in accordance with the laws of this nation. Our federal constitution clearly states that the federal law trumps state law with any conflicting matters, and your steadfast adherence to state government policies that clearly breach federal law, I would suggest that the Council is obeying unlawful orders. So on behalf of my fellow Gippslanders, I implore you to join other pro-choice councils across the country and grow a spine. Act to prevent the targeted harm and vilification of the people that you were elected to represent. Act in accordance with your own policies and values, and immediately work to cease all medical discrimination and segregation in our community. You also need to actively engage in healing the trauma and negativity that these deeply divisive policies have created in our community, and we need to return to the respectful, caring and embracing community once were. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Now, I also have, there's someone who couldn't make it this evening at the last minute, John Cowwarr, and he's asked me to read a submission from him as well. So John and his wife are residential homeowners in Maffra. They'd like to thank Council for the opportunity to voice his opinion. John is here to support the people within the Wellington Shire region who have made a choice to not participate in a clinical trial. There is no doubt many vaccinated people have had to deal with COVID-19 or one of its variants. Just in our family and group of vaccinated friends, many have been ill and tested positive for COVID. I also personally know vaccine-free people who tested COVID positive. Both of these groups acted responsibly by being tested and isolating as required. I'm not alone in my thinking that if this vaccine is protecting us, then it's definitely not doing its job. I believe it's time Council cease discriminating against a group of about 3% of the vaccine-free residents. Preventing vaccine-free parents and carers from entering areas mandated as no-go zones by councils is a wedge dividing and depriving decent ratepayers the right to enter community facilities that they've paid for. Many of the vaccine-free are young, healthy adults with sound immune systems. Their children are missing out on key learning experiences by being deprived to access libraries, swimming pools, etc. Does anyone really fully understand or appreciate the effects, the stress and the anxiety that these no-go zones create? Common sense and consistency is not being applied. Being allowed to enter an establishment for a coffee but not being allowed to sit and have that coffee, how is that not ridiculous? Yet everyone is good to go into crowded supermarkets. Here we are trying to live in an anti-discriminatory world, and here are councils promoting a mandate that is unnecessary and hurting innocent, honest people. My Polish parents, who survived World War II, witnessed discrimination at its worst. If they were alive today, they would be in disbelief that the Australia they loved so much would resort to the kind of discrimination which is happening at this moment. Having said all of this, I like to think Council is going to welcome a challenge by pursuing a common sense approach to finding a solution and dealing with the issue. If other councils around Australia have adopted a pro-choice COVID-19 vaccination approach, then why wouldn't the Wellington Council show some leadership and take up the challenge for all Victorians? I am vaccinated, I believe in the freedom of speech and choice, and I have no hesitation standing side by side with a person who has chosen to remain COVID-19 vaccine free. Regards, John Cowwarr. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. And if you could hand the petition to Brent or Chris.
No worries. There's also some letters of impact that have been provided to council as well.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Simic. I'm born and raised in Sale, and my family are well known in the community. As a mother, you quickly learn that community is everything. I've always felt so lucky to have access to many great programs and resources within the Wellington Shire that have helped me keep sane during the early years of parenting. I myself have utilised maternal and child health, mothers groups, playgroups, the library, the gallery, as well as the many great playgrounds, pump tracks and skate parks. Despite struggling with postnatal depression during lockdowns, I stayed home, I stayed isolated, and I complied with every lockdown and every restriction that was placed upon us. Whilst I never feared COVID, I respected that many did and still do. I have no issues with taking reasonable measures to protect the elderly and vulnerable members of our community. But now that the vaccine is available, these vulnerable people are by definition protected. Despite this, restrictions continue to be imposed on those who aren't. And for what? My age and medical history means that COVID is not a significant risk for me. In fact, I've had COVID. Ironically, I caught it from my double vaccinated partner, and he had it far worse than I did. He and my family members and our friends caught COVID from fully vaccinated events or with reasonably significant symptoms. The only difference between myself and these vaccinated people is that once we all recovered, I was still unable to access venues and Shire services. I was still treated as if I'm some risk and was told that I needed to get vaccinated. It's easy for many to justify discrimination by claiming it's our choice, that these restrictions imposed on us are the consequences of our own choices. But as a councillor who claims to be looking out for the health and well-being of your residents, you must ensure that your policies are justified and not harmful. Currently, exemptions are extremely hard to qualify for, even with natural immunity. Some doctors are unwilling to write these exemptions in fear of being targeted by APRA. So as someone who is COVID recovered, I am still expected to get vaccinated to regain my privileges with a 2-dose vaccine, which is now very outdated and ineffective against the current variants. And yet those who received the vaccine at the very beginning of the rollout, yet are currently unboosted, can still access these venues and facilities. How is this justified? How is this reasonable? How is any of this fair? I currently have a valid green tick, although it is only for a brief period, so I know that my freedom is only temporary. The idea that within a few short weeks I will once again lose my privileges is honestly bizarre and quite incomprehensible. How have I gone from a respected member of the community to being vilified in just 2 short years? I don't have time to explain just how much this has impacted my mental health. Sure, I could go get vaccinated to regain my privileges, but I won't. Vaccination doesn't come without risks. I've had the virus, and I stand firmly in support of bodily autonomy. I raise my kids to know the importance of consent, the importance of saying no and maintaining the rights over their own body. What kind of mother and role model would I be to consent to a vaccination that I do not need in order to be accepted by society? I ask you to please consider the impact that these policies are having on many of our lives. The division that this is causing in our community is unnecessary, and it goes against all the values you claim to uphold. If you willingly exclude members of your community for their private medical choices, can you really claim that you are inclusive and celebrate diversity? I certainly don't feel included. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks for having us tonight. My name's Casey Sears. I'm 36 years old. I've grown up in Gippsland, in Sale, and now just live out of Stratford. I've worked for the Shire at the Aqua Centre. I've been active all my life. On the 1st of October, I went and got my first Moderna vaccination. On day 8, I started to suffer what I thought was a heart attack. I had severe chest pains while I was riding my horse. I then stopped and the pain went away. The next day I got up and I walked my dog and I suffered the same pain. I thought maybe I just hadn't been exercising as much and I hadn't put 2 and 2 together. I then developed a severe rash all over my neck, and my injection site had blown up. My arm was twice the size. I had to go to the Sale Hospital where they administered steroids, and basically they said to me, we don't know what these vaccinations are doing. We will only know once we see more people through the ED department. So that didn't give me much confidence. Following on from that, I've had 5 months where I have been diagnosed with pericarditis, which is inflammation around the heart. I've personally been out of pocket nearly $2,000 for medical bills. I've lost probably $30,000 worth of income from us running our own business. My husband's had to look after me. I've had kids that haven't been able to do what we normally do because of this debilitating incident. So the hard thing for me is being excluded from society. I had a medical certificate from my doctor because they won't give you a full exemption while you're still undergoing treatment and to diagnose what the condition is. I took my kids to the cinema in Bairnsdale and I was turned away because a medical certificate from a doctor isn't recognised. So unless it's a green tick on an app, doctors don't seem to have any say anymore, which was a big shock to me. I took the kids away, I was upset, and they handled it amazingly, and I thought, this can't be right. I went to the police station and they said, unless I was prepared to take legal action, the police could do nothing. So here I was in a position where I could have another vaccine and it could potentially kill me, or I'm excluded. So think about that. I hope you rethink your decisions. Thanks.
Thanks, Casey. No online? Do I have someone to move the receipt of the petition?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that Council receive the attached petition in relation to a request for Council to revise its approach to COVID-19 public health management and take a more pro-choice approach to vaccinations. Thank you.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Look, thank you for your presentations, ladies. Since the pandemic began, councillors followed the advice of the Chief Health Officer and obeyed all laws and regulations as set out by the state government. I am sure that petitioners are aware that council has and will continue to follow all lawful directions from the state government. We thank you for sharing your experiences with us today, and we will respond to the head petitioner within the next 7 days. Thank you, ladies. Item 8, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. I have a few. I apologise for missing the last council meeting because I would have done these then, so they're a little bit old, but on the 19th and the 20th of February, I attended the Hayfield Timber Festival. I'd like to put a big thank you out to Felicia Stevenson and her wonderful committee that put on an event like they did. It was over 27 years ago when the last Hayfield Timber Festival was run. It's a sustainable timber industry, and it was interesting that the National Party, which I must thank with turning up, there was Darren Chester, Melina Barth, Tim Bull, Peter Walsh and Danny O'Brien, and they all put a united front on that they would like the timber industry to stay. They have that election promise, of course, but to actually be there in support and give up their time to support the sustainable timber industry, I thought was quite pleasing. The event was not a little event. When you first walked in and went around and parked your car, the amount of trucks, machinery, I've never seen such equipment in one spot. The whole industry come together to display what they actually all fight for. They had wood shopping, a super truck show, car and custom cycle show, dog junking, vintage engine display, mountain cattlemen on display, woodworking display, vintage chainsaws. They had a market, model truck display, kids art show, historical draft horse demonstration. And of course, at the night they have live music. It was Mika Harrington, which was fantastic. And then the next day they had a street parade of all of the trucks and community groups and schools down the main street. Wow, it was fantastic. They had thousands of people that attended that two-day event. So Wellington continues to advocate for saving the sustainable timber industry. And I'd like to say again, thank you very much for a small committee that put together such a great weekend. I bought one of their T-shirts, and I'll finish with their slogan on the back: sustainability from the hills to the mills and beyond. I thought that was quite good. So congratulations. I'd also like to acknowledge the Sale Amateur Basketball Association, who run a tournament on the 26th and 27th of February. It's hard for little committees to actually run big tournaments, and they had 120 teams or over 1,000 competitors. So what that does for the area, it fills all our hotels, motels, eateries, and I really congratulate their small committee for running that tournament for not only their players but other players in the Wellington Shire. I'd also like to thank the schools that gave up their courts because we only have the 4 courts at JRSC. They used the 3 at Maffra. They used Hayfield. Every court that they could get their hands on. There was only one school that denied using their 2 courts, which hopefully they'll come on again next year. They turned away teams. It was the most teams they have had, I believe. So it was fantastic for what they actually did. I'd also like to acknowledge the Sale Music Festival on Sunday. What a great show they put on. I believe it was the best performers, is what everyone tells me that they had. The weather was fantastic, and they had over 4,000 visitors that actually went to listen to the music. Again, a great committee that has put on something excellent for the community, so well done. And I'd like to finish with Farming for Success Conference that the Wellington Shire ran last week. Mark Coleman, look, fantastic advocate for the farming community. Mark asked some people to present, and even though it was a busy weekend, and as everyone knows, up in the hills on the same day was the cattle sales. No one wants to miss the cattle sales up at Banamba and up high. These presenters, because Mark asked, turned up and presented. And it was a fantastic day. So again, I thank Mark and his team and the great presenters that come along to help with our farming community. Item 9, questions on notice. I believe we have none. Item 10, Mayor and Councillors report. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Mayor and Councillors report be noted.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Wood.
There are a number of events, and during February, and one of them Mayor Bai has already alluded to. But there was also councillors met with the Gippsland Water Dragons, who have had considerable success in Melbourne recently, so that's great. Also met with Darren Chester to discuss the Cowwarr streetscape. Meeting with Jane Oakley, GREZ, G-R-E-Z, and Community Land Owner Engagement Approach. WSC representatives also in attendance. There was as the Mayor spoke about, the Hayfield Timber Festival opening, which was just wonderful, and also a meet and greet for our new Community and Culture, Julie Fote. We also had a meeting with Aqua Energy Redevelopment, and there was also in February a Youth Council induction. That's just a little snapshot of what all the councillors and the Mayor have done. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wood. Item 11.1, Youth Council report. Would Nicola like to come up and do her report?
Thank you. Good evening, councillors and guests, and thank you for having me. The 2022 Youth Council term has begun, and already there have been many achievements as well as goals set for the year ahead. As you may be aware, in December of 2021, a leadership camp was held where the new Youth Council initially met as well as worked with the youth ambassadors of East Gippsland. This was a great way for us to finally meet and go over plans for the year ahead. We had planning sessions and discussed what was the most important issues for us to tackle in the year ahead, making our action plan. These being health and environment, active living, equality, and mental well-being. We are working on ways of including these into each event we hold and how to further ideas brainstormed at camp. Our first official meeting was held Wednesday the 2nd of February. This is when the elections for the new leadership team was voted on. I was fortunate enough to be voted in as Mayor for 2022, with Councillor AJ Belitho as our Deputy Mayor and Councillor Samantha Straw as our Youth Secretary. As a whole, we are confident in this leadership team to guide the group through the new year full of new experiences. The following week, we got straight into work at our first action meeting. Each of us split into groups of 3 or 4 and discussed further ways to act upon our action plan for the year. This helps solidify ideas and ways to uphold our goals from the leadership camp. As the new year has just begun, the Wedge in Sale held a season launch, which 8 youth councillors, including the entire leadership team, attended. This was a majorly successful event to attend and was one of the first for our new youth councillors. Each of us were enthusiastic and excited to have been invited along and participated eagerly. Inductions were held on the 22nd of February, where each youth councillor was sworn in and recited the oath. This event has made each youth councillor aware of their role as a representative of the youth for the Wellington Shire, as well as how to uphold this role successfully. It was so nice to be able to have the Mayor and so many other councillors present online and in person. Despite having a hybrid event, it aided in solidifying our position and highlighted our importance as the new Youth Council of 2022. As the arrival of the All Ages gig, which is no longer held at the Knob Reserve, is coming up, youth councillors are gaining more excitement for the event. At our most recent formal meeting, we discussed volunteers to help at the event. We found that a majority of youth councillors are keen to attend and help out. We did an event walkthrough and a risk assessment. With Youth Week approaching, in the second week of the school holidays, Youth Council have begun their planning for a potential event in the week. This plays a vital role in ensuring Youth Council's presence and exposure to the young people of the Wellington Shire, as have past events in this week. Brainstorming has led to excitement from each youth councillor and many great ideas, big or small, contributed to a large discussion on this event. Maffra Secondary College has reached out to Youth Council and asked that 3 or 4 of us run activities and icebreakers for the Leadership Day. This Leadership Day directly links with the Healthy Wellington strategic plan using the 5 ways to wellbeing. The day will be focused around connection, which is one of the 5 ways. It will be a great opportunity to bring young peers together, upskilling each other to become young leaders within the school and within the Wellington Shire. On behalf of Youth Council and the newly elected leadership team, we're looking forward to working closely with Council over the year in order to bring the young people of the Wellington Shire at the forefront of issues, events and local happenings. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola, for presenting that great report. Do I have someone to move? Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Youth Mayor. I'd like to move that Council receive the Youth Mayor's quarterly report.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Crosley.
Thank you. And may I congratulate you, Youth Mayor, Nicola, on that terrific report. Also congratulate you, part of the leadership team, with AJ Blytho and Samantha Straw as the Secretary, and AJ, I should say, as the Youth Deputy Mayor. I must say that I was privileged to be at the first meeting when you had the elections, and it was really pleasing to see that the positions were contested and the debates, well not the debates, but the presentation speeches that all the candidates gave were very impressive, and I'm sure that under the leadership of the Council will blossom this year. I was also impressed of the real, I suppose it comes with youth, but the excitement and the commitment and the enthusiasm that was shown at that meeting, I would think will go in good stead for, as you've already said, you've hit the ground running, and I'm sure we'll receive great reports in the future. And it's something, as you said, that is a privilege and responsibility, and we do rely on you as youth councillors, and especially the leadership team, to give us an insight into thinking and what is happening in the youth. As you can see, there's a big gap between us and you, and you are a bridge for that. So congratulations, and thank you very much.
Well said. Item 12.1, Delegates Reports. I believe Councillor Mackenzie has one.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wish to present my Delegates Report regarding Stour to South offshore wind farm getting closer to reality. On Friday, March 4, 2022, the Victorian Government announced its offshore wind targets in the Victorian Offshore Wind Policy Direction Paper, with the aim of first power to come online in 2028, building up to 9 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2040. It's exciting to see the scale of this ambition, which will kickstart a new industry right here in Victoria and continue Gippsland's proud history of power generation into the future. This helps pave the way for Stour to South to harness Bass Strait's strong offshore wind, powering homes with clean energy, creating investment in the region and around 2,000 Victorian jobs over its lifetime. Council wish to congratulate the Victorian Government for their leadership in building a clean, diverse and reliable energy system for the future to cut emissions and create new industries with jobs and investment in Victoria. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Mackenzie. Can someone receive that? Councillor Marr, and someone to second that? Councillor Crosley. Just for the people in the audience, you don't have to stay for the whole rest of the meeting, but feel free to if you want, or else you can take off. Thank you.
Pretty exciting.
Item 13.1, Chief Executive Officer Report. So I have someone to move that, please. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that the Chief Executive Officer Report be received.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. The Chief Executive Officer has been meeting in person and sometimes on Zoom. Just a couple here. Attended the Wedge season launch. The Mayor was also in attendance and attended one Gippsland CEO discussion and February board meeting via Zoom and attended Rural Councils Victoria Committee meeting via Zoom. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Item 14.1, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Marr.
I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 21st of February 2022 to the 6th of March 2022.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Maher. Item 14.2, Remuneration Committee Minutes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you. I wish to move that Council 1 note and receive the minutes from the Remuneration Committee meeting held on the 1st of March 2022 as attached, and 2 endorse the actions from the Remuneration Committee meeting held on the 1st of March 2022 as detailed in the attached minutes.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Mackenzie.
Mayor, each month, 3 councillors, and 2 people from the council, being the CEO and the corporate manager, meet and discuss the finances and costings of our budget as councillors. As with any other business, we are accountable for our expenses and we ensure that they are in line and kept in check via the council recommendations. It is pleasing to say that at times we do have some anomalies, but they are clarified and corrected in the appropriate manner. And we're looking forward to be able to certainly be out in the community from now on due to the COVID restrictions being lifted, and look forward to being able to, again, meet the community and be able to assist in meeting community needs going forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Mackenzie. Item 15.1, Monthly Planning Decisions. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Marr.
I move that Council note the report on recent planning permit trends and planning application determinations between the 1st of January 2022 and the 31st of January 2022.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Planning decision report and the planning trend report are found in the attachments and certainly interesting reading. They include the issuing of planning permits, amended permits, refused permits and notices of decision to grant a permit. So it covers everything. Of note, subdivision of land into 13 lots at Hayfield, use and development of land for a Class B broiler farm at Rosedale, construction of 3 single-storey dwellings and a 3-lot subdivision at Yarram, building and works associated with use for a warehouse at Sale, as well as construction of a storage facility at Wellington Park. And it's also important to note that there's many residential constructions throughout the Shire that are still going strong. The total decisions made overall for the month is 54, and once again we certainly commend the work that our planning team continue to do. Well done.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Item 16.1, road closure, part of Morgan's Road in Cowwarr. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. It's more up there, isn't it? I might go. Excuse me. Just speak about yourself. Here we go. I move that 1, the property owner of Lot 1, TP 66876, Lot 1, TP 663905, Lot 1 and 2, TP 841404, and CA 9 in the parish of Gabby North, be advised in writing that they are required to enter into a Section 173 agreement under the Planning Environment Act on their title abutting the proposed part road to be closed. In entering into this agreement, the owners within 3 months of the road sales be closed. In entering this agreement, the owners within 3 months of the road sales process being finalised with the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, DELP, agree to consolidate the title created for the road with their titles for Lot 1, TP 668786, and Lot 1, TP 663905, and Lot 1, TP 841404, on execution of this Section 173 agreement on title, Council agrees to the following. 2. Pursuant to Section 349 of the Land Act 1958, Council resolved to give its concurrence to the closure part of Government Road abutting Lot 1, TP 668786, Lot 1, TP 36905, Lot 1 and 2, TP 841404, and CA 9 in the parish of Toongabbie North, shown red in the attached plans, and if I can have 3 as read.
You're getting so good at reading the numbers out. Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Crosley.
What all those numbers meant. This has been a request from DELP. This is the adjoining lands that were mentioned previously on numerous occasions. Have been under a lease agreement, grazing lease agreement for that unused land. Over time, it's been basically used as their own, and there's been some buildings that have been put over the border and onto that unused road area that they've leased or licensed. So it's appropriate to correct that anomaly. And of having a building across a boundary and a title, that it's appropriate that it be sorted by the adjoining property owners acquiring the bits that they adjoin, and so therefore DELP is asking the council to concur with that process.
Thanks, Councillor Crosley. Item 16.2, Guthridge Parade Special Charge Scheme Final Certificate. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that 1, Council adopts the final cost certificate for the Guthridge Parade South Special Charge Street Construction Scheme, scheme number 1903, and 2, Council officers prepare the final apportionments and amounts due from property owners of the Guthridge Parade South Special Charge Street Construction Scheme, scheme number 1903, based on a total levy amount of $36,000.
And do I have someone to second that? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all of the supporters of that special charge scheme, indeed to those who got it sorted. It actually came in at a much better price than the estimated total. In fact, it came in at $53,883 less than the original $902,000 estimate. I think there might be a mistake on the agenda. It says 6% over, we're at 6% under the estimated cost. but also the maximum that could have been levied, we're well under that at $36,000. It's looking fantastic down there.
It's great.
A lot of these projects only take place when you've got that contribution from those benefiting along the road as well. In this case, the benefit was smaller than many of the special charge schemes, but notwithstanding that, it's great to have that contribution from the community who are impacted. And again, another street in one of our communities that was sadly in need of some love and attention is really singing now.
Yeah, great result. Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. Item 16.3, Place Names Committee. Can I have someone to move that? Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that one, Council receive and note the minutes of the Place Names Committee meeting held on the 8th of February 2022, and two, the names forwarded by the RAF from East Sale, Beaufighter, Beaufort, Wirraway, Anson, Mustang and Bloodhound be added to the council approved road names register for future use where the names meet the naming rules in place at the time. And three, the name Hyatt be added to the approved road names register for the future use in the Kilmany area where the name meets the naming rules in place at the time, and that the proponent be notified of the outcome.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. The names added from the RAF, we actually asked the RAF to supply names that might be used in future naming, and we certainly encourage others in the community who would like to recognise elements in our community that could be put on road names. There's obviously a whole lot of rules around what can and can't go on there. Clearly the RAF have a very, very long history with our area, and it's great to start getting get some more names onto our road name register that can recognise that closeness of the RAF with our communities, full stop. The name Hyatt is actually recognising not a hotel in Melbourne, but it was a significant person in the Kilmany area, which is, I'm sorry, I've lost that spot on my notes here. But in any case, it's important again to be able to find names in our community to be able to use, where there's a lot of work being done to identify females in our history, and both recent and past, who contributed. And we're also very keen to keep looking at the Gunnar Kerno names, for instance, to be able to broaden off a lot of our place names, which have typically been very male European based. And while those people who have contributed to our community, there's many others who haven't been recognised in that way. So again, we encourage others to historical groups in particular, Indigenous groups, women's groups, to contribute to those road namings.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. Item 16.4, 2021-2022 Capital Works Adjusted Budget. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the Council approve the changes to the 2021-22 Capital Works budget and resultant adjustment to the Capital Works budget of $50,442, $50 million, yes. $42,830, as described below. Note the additional Capital Works budget, the adopted Capital Works budget of $48,242,451. Add projects added or removed from the budget since the approval as per attachment 1, which mainly are changes through carry forwards and the federal government's local roads and community infrastructure program of $7,840,699, and removes projects that are deferred or removed for reasons as per attachment 2 of $2,496,000, and remove projects that are proposed for carrying forward to the 2022-23 for reasons as per attachment 3 of $3,144,320, and note the adjusted Capital Works budget of for 21-22 now being $50,442,830.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's reasonably procedural to do some adjustments in our capital works budget, but the significant change, or the most significant change, apart from the deferring or some slowing down of some projects, is the significant LRCIP, or the Local Government Community Infrastructure Program. And that's certainly allowed Council to add some very significant projects, such as the electrical vehicle charge station in Yarram, the outdoor pool solar heating upgrades, Cameron Sporting Complex cricket nets, Upper Dargo road funding, the Maffra tennis grandstand, the Dawson Guthridge Parade safety improvements, which has just recently been completed, and a turf wicket at the Yarram Cricket Ground. So we really appreciate the federal government funding that we've received, and note that the other changes within the program will either be have either been deleted or they'll be completed in next year's capital works budget. So well done to the officers on getting these changes through and delivering our capital works program.
Thanks, Councillor Tatterson. Item 17.1, Quick Response Grants, November 2021 to February 2022. Do I have someone to move that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Stevens.
I would like to move that Council note the information regarding applications received under the Quick Response Grants Scheme, QRGS, for the period November 2021 to February 2022 as attached.
Thanks, Councillor. Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. The Quick Response Grant Scheme, I think, is a very important part of our community involvement with incorporated groups, and of course applications are invited throughout the year for various projects, facilities, events, and I think there's a third one, I've forgotten what that is, events, projects and facilities, and up to $2,000 can be applied for as long as the community committee has a 3-for-1 or a local proportion, which of course can be voluntary hours. So a lot of community groups use their voluntary hours, which can be charged out on a day-to-day basis at $20 an hour for these events, and are very useful to assist community groups who want to take a whole range of activities. And I congratulate the successful recipients for the projects they've carried out for the benefit of the community, and encourage any community group to consider putting an application in to facilitate good work in our Shire. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Item 18, further gallery and online comments. Any, Mr CEO?
None, Mayor.
None? And we need to move into closed session. Can I have someone for leave approval?
Yes, I can do it.
Councillor Rossetti.
I move, Mayor, that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to Section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider matters under Section 66(5)(b) as defined by Section 3(1), being F, personal information being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Crosley.